Negativity in the World of Warcraft community.
In this video, we'll be discussing the negativity in the WoW community. What is it? Why are people doing it? Is it even justified? Yes, of course it is. And to start this off, let's discuss negativity bias.
Okay.
Negativity bias is a psychological phenomena where we treat negative events as more important than positive ones. For example,
of course.
You're having a great
Obviously.
day at work. Things are going well. You listen to an excellent radio show or
Yeah.
podcast on the commute to work. But then a coworker makes an offhanded remark that you just find irritating.
Makes
Then
you
you
mad.
find yourself stewing over those words for the rest of the day. And then when you eventually get home and someone asks how your day was, your reply is that it was
Man,
terrible.
sucked.
Even though it was overall pretty good, except for that one negative incident.
It's the same with everything, right? It's the old fucking story. You build 100 bridges, you suck one dick, you're known as a dick sucker. You walk down the street, you shake 100 hands, you get slapped in the face once, you're gonna remember the slap.
This is a pretty common occurrence with people.
Yeah.
And research shows that it's most likely just rooted in basic evolution. The tendency to pay attention to bad things and overlook the good things could have been literally a matter of life and death. And those who are more attuned to danger and paid more attention to bad things were just more likely to survive.
They're the ones that saw
and
the
the
bear.
basics of negativity.
It makes sense, right? Because like whenever you're a caveman and you see a bear and you pay attention to that fucking bear, imagine the guys are like, yeah, there's a bear over there, but there's also a squirrel and he's really nice. So let's focus on the squirrel and not think about the bear. How do you think that guy did in evolution? That dude was gone millions of years ago. He's done. He's finished. We got people that care about bears. He's dead.
Bias is that when presented with two equally important pieces of information, you'll treat the negative one as more important, even if by an objective measure, they're exactly the same in importance.
I don't know about that. but
This
okay.
is why bad things tend to grab our attention.
right.
Studies show that negative news is more likely to be perceived as truthful, since negative information
agree.
draws greater attention.
Yeah.
It's seen
That's
as
one of the worst things to me, dude. Is there are people like, oh, bro, I'm just telling the truth that you a piece of shit. It's like, why is it every time that somebody's like, oh, I'm just being real is followed by being a real piece of shit? The truth is harsh? No, people are assholes. Like that, it's not, the truth is not harsh. Like people are just fucking assholes and they say shit like that to rationalize being assholes. It's not that much, it's not complicated. It's really not.
if you've ever seen someone say they're just giving their honest opinions, or they're just a very truthful person, it's almost always followed by a negative opinion or a negative statement.
Yep.
Because in most colloquial English
Everybody
language,
knows it.
the term being real is synonymous
Being
with
a
pointing
dick.
out negative flaws.
Being a dick.
And of course,
Yeah.
if you don't believe me, I'll have actual links to scientific studies in the video description that you can
true.
read yourself. And a great article would summarize it for you if you don't want to look through scientific papers, because they're quite boring. Now, let's go over a fun little statistical analysis. You see, I, the person creating this video about negativity, actually puts out a lot of negative videos. So I have a great set of data by just looking over the numbers of the videos on my other channel.
Okay.
I have two main types of videos over there. The top 10 best of, and the top 10 worst of. And if I take the numbers of those videos, average it out, remove the outliers in the top and bottom 5% for some of the best possible data we can get. The premium stuff.
Okay.
The kind of numbers that would make your statistics teacher proud. The worst of videos perform 3 times better on average. And in statistical terms, that's ridiculously
more.
significant. It's not something as low
I'll
as like
look
a
at mine.
5% difference, or even a more moderate 25% difference.
200%.
It's a 200% difference in views.
True.
Negative videos just get more attention because people are more likely to click on them. And then YouTube rewards those videos by recommending them more. Because
Well, they're
people are
more opinionated. It's like, as I said, you're walking down the street. Yeah, it's because they're out of the ordinary. Well, they are though, right? I mean, to a certain extent, I think so. And it's not, I'm not saying that negativity doesn't just like intentionally like attract more attention. Like, I think to some degree it does, but it's more complicated than that.
on them. And the attractive topics will just keep drawing in more views thanks to being recommended to more people.
Yeah.
Which just kind of repeats the cycle. The YouTube algorithm has a system of where the rich get richer, and you can't get much richer than making a negative topic video. Although I will say, there are diminishing returns to negativity,
True.
but for the most part that doesn't matter, and the benefits outweigh the negatives to the point that you could legitimately just make a channel dedicated to only covering negative topics and perform pretty well. Now, I'm sure
I wonder, has anybody ever done that? I wonder. And so, yeah, there's plenty of that, right? Of course, yeah, there's plenty of that. And negative topics do, I think, draw attention to an extent. I think positive. I remember like my Torghast video was really popular, and I was like very positive about Torghast, like getting hyped up about new stuff or doing a new raid or something like that. Always is very popular. But I do think that people, to some degree, and also like. There's a bit of like, I guess like confirmation bias that goes into the negativity, because I think a lot of people think negative things and then they don't want to express them for whatever reason. So then whenever somebody makes a video that's negative, it kind of allows that person to express how they feel. It's like negativity by proxy.
Many of you can think of a couple of channels or WoW fan sites that are very negative with their opinions on the game.
Yes.
And they get lots of views because of psychology and the YouTube algorithm rewarding those opinions more than the more moderate, neutral opinions.
I feel like I don't like that. I don't agree with that, because the implication there is that the negative opinions are fundamentally wrong and the more moderate and neutral opinions are more right. Like I don't agree with that. I don't. I'm gonna listen to it again and make sure I can actually respond to it just the right way.
Sites that are very negative with their opinions on the game, and they get lots of views because of psychology and the YouTube algorithm rewarding.
Right. There's another reason why they get a lot of views is because people agree. That's another reason, is because people watch the video and they agree. Because if everybody watched the video that was negative and then the video was like, oh well, fuck this, I don't want to watch this video because it's wrong, then they would dislike the video. But these videos that are negative have huge amounts of positive fucking comments and support behind them. And there is evidence of that not always being the case. And evidence of that is whenever one of these big news publications has some random fucking, like freelance writer write some article about 10 things that white people aren't good at, and then everybody on the internet gets mad about it. That would, if that was like a YouTube video, it would be downvoted into fucking oblivion, even if it got that many people watching it. So there are people that are watching these negative videos and agreeing with them. They are agreeing with the video. It's very different than watching something and then getting mad about it. Like, yes, people would follow Donald Trump whenever he was still on Twitter so they could get mad about every tweet that he would make. 100% that happens. But there are many people also that watch these videos and agree with them.
And to an extent, I have no problem with this. Criticism itself is not bad, and making negative videos isn't inherently bad either. If it was, I wouldn't make so many of them myself.
Yeah.
Really, it kind of just goes into the specific kinds of criticisms. Some kinds of criticism is just inherently better than others, and some of it can even be downright toxic. Let's take a look at a post from a developer from another video game community, Paradox.
Okay. Here we go.
Before closing, I'd like to note a few things on the subject of giving feedback. When I first started at Paradox, the direct line between community and developers was a major plus for me, because I like the idea of talking to the community without having to run every post past 3 different marketing departments first. However, this kind of direct community access comes at a heavy cost for us. As many of you have noticed, we have gotten a little sparse in these forums in the last few months.
I wonder
or
why.
Even years. The reason for this is that often we do face a debate culture that is not enjoyable to take part in, where it is taken as a given that the devs are either lazy or incompetent, and where everything we do is viewed through that lens. Not only is it incredibly demoralizing to spend months of your life creating something, only to see the people you made it for tear it to shreds, it is also a debate that gives no one anything. We aren't paid to wade through pages of abuse to find a few nuggets of useful feedback, and so the feedback is not acted on. A lot of you have access to sources and languages we don't speak or have studied some detail that we aren't aware of. Such feedback is very useful. Just a few weeks ago, someone sent me a plan of the Turkish Railway in 1936 taken from an old Turkish book. So I was able to use that update to the Turkish Railway setup at GameStart. We're not looking for fawning adoration, although we will certainly accept it, or a forum in which our decisions can't be discussed with a critical eye. We want to have your feedback, but there is no point to it if it can't be delivered with a minimum of respect for each other. If you want to have a forum where developers are willing to go answer your questions, then it is also your responsibility to build a place where we feel welcome, and where we can disagree in a productive and professional manner. It costs you nothing to assume that we are acting in good faith. None of us wake up in the morning to go to work in order to do a bad job. Now, on an unrelated note...
So what do you guys think about that? Because I think that's true to an extent, because some people are they're way too vitriolic with what they say. But I do also want to say that it's not always just a matter of a difference of opinion. Like, I think this is, again, at the end of the day, like, you have something like the corruption vendor rotation. And the devs disagreed with the players on that. Let's use this example. The devs disagree with the players on the corruption vendor rotation, but there's no reasoning behind the disagreement. There's no reasoning behind the conduit energy. There's no... So that's why people get mad about it. That's why people get frustrated about it, is because they're being told something and there's no logic behind it. It's something that people... Yeah, respect needs to go both ways. How do you expect the players to respect the developers if the developers don't respect the players' time? The developers are the ones that can make the game and change the game. And whenever the same things happen over and over and over, it's exhausting. Like, people were very, very reasonable during BFA. I would say so, especially compared to how things are right now with Shadowlands. And nothing changed. They just did the same stupid shit the whole time, man. Like, the thing is, like, I don't want to sit around and fucking coddle some developer and tell them that half of their ideas are good when they're not. Like, I can, yeah, the insults and stuff like that, but I'll be honest with you guys. I think that they are incompetent. I do. I think they're genuinely incompetent. I think they either don't care or they're incompetent. That's 100%. There's no way that you can do something like the corruption vendor rotation and not be incompetent. It's just impossible. Like, and I'm just so fucking sick of hearing that that's negativity. You're right, it's negativity. And it's deserved. Because I'm getting my time wasted by somebody who has no fucking idea what they're doing. It's crazy, man. Like, I've tried to be reasonable. Every fucking I've been, oh, they're making it better. Oh, they're making it better. I'm sick of hyping people up because they do something that they should have done to begin with. Oh, wow, let's get excited that we added something into the game that should have been there since day one. How many times are we going to get taken advantage of like this? I'm tired. It's so stupid. I shit on the devs so much. Yeah, because they're making shit. That's why I'm shit. Because it's shit. The content sucks. Doing Torghast 2 times a week for no fucking reason sucks. It's trash. It's not good. There's nothing that doesn't do any favors for anybody. The devs, and I am very positive about a number of things. I think the raids are great. I think the dungeons are great. I think some of the mounts are great. They do too many reskins, but some of the mounts are great. But these systems are fucking garbage. They are fucking garbage. And I'm sick of making excuses for it. I'm sick of coddling these 35, 40-year-old men around into doing something that they've done wrong systematically for 3 years. Like, Bobby Kotick didn't tell them they needed to make conduit energy. Bobby Kotick didn't tell them they needed to make, the Shadowlands rares not drop their special items for all classes. There's no Bobby Kotick didn't tell them to do that. They thought that up themselves. But what if he did? I guarantee you, Bobby Kotick doesn't even he doesn't care. Okay, he just wants to make the money. Let's keep watching the video. The thing is with this is, like, I think that videos like this are really important, but I always worry whenever videos like this get made, because sometimes I think that they're used to mask legitimate criticism and write it off as just being negative or criticizing or whatever. So videos like this are good, but I think that we need to, there needs to be a line.
Let's play a fun little game. Let's go over to the WoW forums and type in one little phrase, followed by pretty much anything. And that phrase is, why does Blizzard hate blank? The fun thing about this game is that no matter what you type in for that blank, you'll find something in the WoW forums. Let's start with an easy one. Why does Blizzard hate the Alliance? Now, let's try, why?
I mean, can you be surprised? Here's the thing, right? Is like, but there's truth to this. There's always been a horde bias in the game. Like, everybody knows this. Like, there's been a horde bias in the game. The horde racials are better. And on top of that, why does Blizzard hate how can you not ask that question if you're trying to mythic raid in WoW right now? Is it Blizzard's fault? Ultimately, I think it is, yeah. 100%. But of course people are going to ask that.
Does Blizzard hate the Horde?
Yeah.
Now let's try, why does Blizzard hate Night Elves? Why does Blizzard hate battle pets? Why does Blizzard hate trains?
True.
Each time you're bound to find a thread or two about even the most niche topics. And there's a good chance someone is 100% convinced that Blizzard just hates that particular thing. Now, this is just a fun little game that was mentioned to me by another YouTuber who doesn't make WoW videos.
That's funny.
And definitely has nothing to do with the current topic.
Yeah, it's actually, it's funny.
Getting back on topic, constructive criticism in the negativity. There's this assumption I see a lot whenever I'm reading negative posts about the game online, either on forums, Reddit threads, or just YouTube comment sections, since people will like to complain about the game on just random videos of mine that have nothing to do with their complaints.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, I see this underlying assumption that the developers themselves are purposefully trying to do a bad job. Like, for example, the Covenant campaign. The Covenant campaign, for basically all 4 of them, is mostly required in order to max out your renown, and you get some neat rewards for doing it. So it's something that pretty much everyone has to do.
Yeah.
And in that vein, the questing is ridiculously easy, and it's basically there just to show you the story. So I've seen complaints about it, which basically go along the lines of, why is required content so ridiculously mind-numbingly easy when Blizzard has proven that they can make solo content fun? And because the content is so easy for an experience, which is basically the culmination of the storyline of fighting off against the big bad evil guy, why is it that it's so easy you could AFK through half of it and still succeed? And you know what?
Yeah.
Very fair criticism.
Yes.
I didn't even think of that as a problem, but now that's been pointed out, why do they make it so easy? Well, it's because the developers are literally brain dead and couldn't make a good game if they tried. And the only reason they force you to do it is to increase engagement numbers, because they don't care about you having fun, and actively work against the players whenever possible. Oh, and also...
Okay. I want him to fucking write out another one of these patronizing paragraphs about why they did corruption vendors. Or why they have conduit energy. Patronize me about that. Because yes, I agree that yes, people do take it to way too high of a degree. But yeah, it's a problem. Like, that's not the reason why people are saying it. Like, yeah, obviously some people are 100%. But here's the problem is that, like, if you're talking to, like, for example, right now I have 41,000 people watching the stream. There's at least 3 hate watchers here. I know you're here. Maybe you're banned in chat and you're just watching and you've got your second account on fucking NordVPN on your phone and you're gonna be like, I fucking hate you, you're so stupid, like, you dumb. And, you know, like this, half the viewers, yeah, sure. You mean, oh yeah, you mean 30,000, yeah, sure. Look, all I'm saying is that there's going to be negative people. And I think it's not fair to, like, the thing is, like, it's complicated. It's very, very complicated. And there are no simple answers for this kind of thing. Because, like, you have community managers that are supposed to make this not so much the case, and they're supposed to be the ones that are kind of the liaison. They basically tank they tank all the hate, and then they take the good stuff and bring it over to developers. And I think that's important, but at the same time, like, things like the Covenant campaign being super easy, the reason why it's super easy is obvious. Like, anybody who can't see that is dumb. It's super easy because they want everybody to be able to complete it regardless of who they are. Like, I can't see how you can look at it any other way. Then apply for a dev job and fix this shit. Well, the thing is, like, look, you don't have to be a chef to see a steak is undercooked, man. Like, you don't have to be. You don't have to go and do that. Like, it's not that complicated.
So they're out of touch. Now, the premise of this complaint is entirely reasonable.
True.
The conclusion is not. This is an excellent example of unproductive criticism. The flaw pointed out is a pretty minor complaint, all things considered.
I actually think that the reason that the forcing engagement numbers is not a flaw. I'm sorry, it's just happened too many times. I don't think that. I think the other two are fucking stupid. Yeah, of course, they're brain dead. Couldn't make a good game. Yeah, that's stupid. The last sentence is stupid too. But them trying to force engagement numbers, yeah, I agree. I actually agree with that. Because it's happened too many times.
But it is pointing out something which could be perceived as a legitimate flaw. Although the conclusion drawn from that is just to assume the developers did it on purpose because they're being malicious. Now, here's the thing with the developers. I'm sure many of you have seen the articles about how not well paid most of them are in comparison to other gaming studios or tech companies that require the same skill sets.
Yes.
And yet developers are clamoring to get jobs at Blizzard, and they post very excitedly on Twitter whenever they land a job there, because there's tons of passionate, talented people who want to work on the game.
Yeah.
If anything,
that's true.
I would assume the complete opposite.
Very
from the developers.
prestigious place.
You can make more money by just making videos about World of Warcraft than being a developer on the game.
That's true.
But they do it because they're very passionate about it, or at least the game design itself. And game design is very complicated, and you don't always want to give players exactly what they want. That was one of the main arguments as to why people wanted Classic WoW, to remove all the conveniences that Blizzard gave players because they asked for them. So the underlying assumption that all negative traits in the game are done because the developers are malicious just seems wrong, and it's more likely they're just trying new things and just not really hitting the mark.
Well, then why do they keep trying the same new thing over and over? How many times do you miss the mark until you decide to yourself, you know what, maybe you shouldn't keep shooting a bow? And also, like, he's right, and I actually wrote this in my thing, that the developers, they give players what they want, and they don't have the insight to give players what they need. I don't think that they understand what players need. They don't understand the reason why people want something. They only listen to what the players want, and they can't discern from that. You can't, like, reverse engineer how a player says that you can't reverse engineer what a player says into why they feel that way. Like, the developers can't can't make that connection, and that's the problem. It's like an example of this is like the solo queue. Is that I don't think solo queue is the solution. I think the problem is actually that players don't interact with each other in PvP anymore. There's tons of reasons for that. That's the real problem, and solo queue is just a symptom of that problem.
That's where the quote comes in, with everyone assuming the worst intentions of all game designs. And the example I gave with the Covenant campaign is a real one I found on the internet, from a prominent source too.
Yes.
I will say though, that bad feedback like this is thankfully not very prevalent in popular YouTubers, at least. I think Asmongold, for example, does a great job with giving constructive criticism.
Thank you.
He's one of the biggest WoW critics and is very vocal about his dislikes of certain parts of the game.
I sure am, aren't I?
But does so in a constructive manner, without assuming ill intention by the developers, whether you agree with or like the guy or not.
I do. I want to say, I have to correct them here. I do actually think that they have ill intent with some of these systems. Like, there's no way that you do a corruption vendor rotation and you don't have ill intent. I'm sorry. Like, it's just, there's no way. There's no fucking way. I can't believe it. I won't believe it. Like, same with the conduit energy. I don't believe it. It makes no sense.
I personally disagree with some of his opinions on the game, but that's
it is.
because everybody plays and cares about different things in the game.
Yeah, I'm a
which is a good thing to keep note of when getting all of your criticism from only one source.
That's very true. He's
so,
right.
let's take two statements. One of them is that the developers only design the game in a way to increase engagement metrics. The other, that the developers design the game in a way so that players will have fun. The statement on the left is a negative opinion, and the statement on the right is a positive one. At first glance, the statement on the left seems more true because it's negative, whereas information about the subject is pretty equal. It's about just as much information that players have access to, which would suggest either one being the case, with probably a little bit more information pointing towards the second opinion. However, if you state the first opinion, no one will question your sources, and in fact, you'll be hailed for telling it like it is. If you quote the second opinion, people will immediately respond with hesitance, and probably ask how you know this, or at the very least question the validity of that statement. Even though, objectively speaking, we have about as much information on both of them being true. Although, having one of the opinions will have you...
I disagree with that. We literally have we've watched for 3 years, we've watched the earnings reports, the quarterly earnings reports that are used as success metrics that are then given to the investors. So we clearly know the reason why we think that engagement metrics are the way that developers measure success is because those are used as metrics of success in the quarterly earnings report to shareholders. Like that's why.
Being called a truth teller, and the other will be met with less favorable comments, generally in the variety of being a paid Blizzard shill.
Yes.
You have to justify your opinion more if it's a positive one, and you don't have to explain anything if it's a negative one. Now,
I don't know about that. Like, dude, people will try to pick apart the shit that I say oh my god, dude. People will try to figure out some little fucking, inaccuracy in what I say. Yeah, right. Yeah, fucking right. I think that, like, there's tons of people that will do that. And especially because, like, you have the people that they will reward Blizzard and they will say anything that Blizzard does is right. So you're going to have people that are both sides. Like, it's like if you go and you read some of those threads of, like, people that have legitimate criticisms, you can very easily find people that will always try to find the bright side or the good part, silver lining in whatever gray cloud Blizzard gives us. So it's always, you don't lose 30% of your population of people playing the games if they're fun, if they're good, right? Like, there's clearly something wrong. Like, it is obviously, clearly, directly, like, evidently something wrong. So this is an argument on validity of the criticism. This is about propagation of negativity. Well, the propagation of negativity is circumstantial around which about the examples themselves. Like, saying that WoW sucks versus saying that WoW is good, I think is probably a better example, because they both have the same degree of information, right? Like, those are the statements he gave earlier are unequal because one of them implies a certain degree of knowledge about the game, and the other one doesn't. So, I think people will say the same thing. Like, there's people that say both of them. But I see what you're saying, though. I do.
Last point. Every year on April Fools, I make a video on my channel where I argue an unconventional point. Like
I love
how
it.
Garrosh did nothing
those
wrong,
are my favorite.
or how Warlords of Draenor wasn't that bad of an
Those are
expansion.
so good.
And these videos are written in a way where I'm not telling any lies. And the videos are presented in a way that makes the points come across as kind of reasonable.
Yes.
And pretty much every year the videos are a
Thank
big
you so
success
much, man.
and change a lot of people's minds on those topics. Just remember that a lot of news videos and scathing criticisms written on public forums present their information in the same way as my April Fool's videos. They're not telling any lies. They're bringing up good points even. Yeah. It's just the conclusions are about as ridiculous as saying Garrosh is a good guy. And that's the real problem of the negativity in the World of Warcraft community. Constructive criticism is great and healthy for the game. It's just the criticism that's on the same level as my April Fool's Day videos are a little bit toxic. And to end off, here's a quote from the WoW Diary, a journal of computer game development, to kind of put it into perspective. That people have been complaining about the game since before it came out.
True.
And there isn't any more bad things about the game today than there were in the early days. We just have a lot more people on social media that can make their opinions heard louder than before. This quote is in relation to when Blizzard added the rested experience system we have today. In addition to designing the class mechanics, Rob Pardo can take much of the credit for making WoW accessible to casual users.
Thanks, Rob.
He came up with an elegant corpse retrieval system that ameliorated the post-death anguish previous MMOs embraced. He made leveling much faster and implemented a rest system that rubber-banded the rate at which hardcore and casual players leveled. Instead of punishing players who played the game nonstop, Rob rewarded casual players for taking sensible breaks.
Yeah.
As per usual, the fans on the forums went berserk about Blizzard turning WoW into a Care Bear game, and that we were forcing customers to limit their time. But after a week, the hysteria blew over. The public reaction was annoying, but Rob and the designers held their ground. The rest state bonus system remained after tweaking only a couple of its values.
Those are the kinds of things, I agree with that. So there's a lot actually to say about this video. I actually have a lot to say about this video. And I think that the one thing that I want to say about that is that the difference between the rested experience and, let's say, the Legion Legendary system on release is that we can look back at this decision and say that it was a good decision. Whereas we can't look back at the Legion Legendary system and say that it was good. Or we can't look back at a number of these other systems and say that they were good. So I think that's another difference, is that, yes, obviously, the most extreme opinions do absolutely dominate the most conversation. And the reason why they dominate the most conversation is because they are extreme. They grab people's attention. That's absolutely true. But the reality is that those people are a minority. Those people are the extreme 5% that will say that Blizzard, you know, they will celebrate being able to give Blizzard $70 for the Burning Crusade Deluxe Edition, or they will celebrate people quitting the game because they want to feel better about what they did because they hate WoW. Like, these are not the majority of the population, but they are the loudest extremes, so they feel like they're the dominant voices, but they're really not. The reality is that a lot of these decisions here can be looked back at in retrospect, and you can see the design idea, and you can see the wisdom in the ideas. And I think that's a completely different paradigm than if we look back at the wisdom in not trading Azerite armor, and there isn't any. There's no, like, you're right, these kinds of things look great in 2020, or, you know, like hindsight's 2020 or whatever you want to say. But there are plenty of other things that do not look that great in hindsight. There are a lot of mistakes that Blizzard did make. And I think that's what the difference is. Do you have examples of extreme positivity at the same rate as extreme negativity? The point is imbalance. Yeah, I think there's more negativity. Yeah, I definitely think so. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, that's not a reason. Like, I'm not debating that at all. So the thing is that this is... I think the video is important. It definitely is, but I also think that there's a lot of there's a lot of circumstantial things that are going on with the game now that I think do rationalize a lot of people's frustration. I absolutely think so, and I know that might not be popular or whatever, but I think people that are really mad and frustrated about the game right now, I think that especially if you're a Mythic Raider, you're probably fine because that's like the only thing you care about. But like, I remember talking to like just those 2 or 3 random guys that were PvPers the other day on my stream. They didn't like how PvP was going, and they're not streamers or anything. They're just people that stopped playing the game and stopped caring. I have been extremely... Here's the thing, right? Is that I've caught a lot of really negative criticism for like liking the Essence system in 8.2. I caught a lot of negative criticism for thinking 8.2 and Mechagon and Nazjatar were great. A lot of people didn't think so. I did think so. I think Torghast is not as bad as people think it is. I think it's how often you have to do it. It needs to get a lot better, but I think that it has potential. I got a lot of criticism whenever I said Island Expeditions could be improved, and everybody else wanted them thrown out and thrown away. Like, I got a ton of negativity because of that, because people disagreed with me. I've been very positive about those things. I've said that I liked Cataclysm. That's another one. I really enjoyed Cataclysm. People disagree with that too. And there have been other things that I've said and been positive about that people have not liked. Overall, I mean, yeah, there are things that I'm negative about, but I don't think that I'm just constantly negative, or I wouldn't have these opinions about things that people disagree with. Of course.